So, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, also known as the duo Radio Silence. And they're also the directors of the first Ready or Not movie. And this movie features Samara Weaving once again as Grace. It also features some new faces this time, including Catherine Newton, Sarah Michelle Gellar, David Cronenberg, Elijah Wood. And this movie taking place immediately after the events of the first movie, Grace finds herself being hunted down by some very powerful families who band together to try to basically play another game of hide and seek with her. This time around, they bring in her sister, played by Catherine Newton, to kind of do a double or nothing deal. And they must try to survive the ordeal, survive the night, and we have a new Ready or Not movie. So I remember the first Ready or Not movie. I remember seeing it in theaters and having a lot of fun with it. I thought Samara Weaving did a great job in that movie. And it was a pretty funny, dark, comic thriller horror movie and such that kind of worked for how silly it was. And I was kind of surprised when I heard that they were going to make a sequel to it, because I thought the first movie kind of felt open and shut to me. Like, there was really no reason for a sequel. Well, I guess this movie also did really well on streaming services as well, so sequel, I guess, even if it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But the trailers themselves looked kind of fun, kind of looked ridiculous and over the top. And so I saw this movie, and I think this is going to be a rough review because I think there are parts of this movie that are really fun, but I feel like this movie is just not as fun as the first movie, and I'll kind of get into that. But first, let's start off with the things I do like in this movie. First off, I do think there are a lot of actors in this movie who do a good job. Samara Weaving, once again, does a great job as Grace. I thought she was really good and funny and definitely dealing a lot from the first movie and such. Catherine Newton as her sister in this movie, which I thought was kind of weird because in the movie they kind of make a big deal about Grace being an orphan and such, so she didn't really have a family growing up. And so this movie is like, oh, you have a sister too. It's like, oh, where did this sister come in? And then they kind of try to explain it away as like, yeah, this is what really happened and such. Okay, I can kind of get that, but despite that, I do think that the combination of Catherine Newton and Samara Weaving, I thought the two of them worked together very well. Also, Sarah Michelle Gellar, it's always great to see her. I thought she did a really good job in this movie for the most part. And Kevin Durand has a very brief role in this movie. I thought he was really funny in this movie. He was also in the duo's last movie, Abigail, which I thought he was really good in too. So I guess it's no surprise that he's in this movie with them as well. So I thought most of the actors do a fine job. And kind of like the first movie, there are some pretty fun kills. There are some pretty fun fights. Samara Weaving obviously gets a lot of action in this movie, and I do think that her action scenes are really fun and over the top and silly ridiculous. There's this one involving the song Total Eclipse of the Heart, which I thought was pretty fun. And also, the movie, it can be funny. I think it leans more into the comedy aspects than I do think it adds into the horror and thriller aspects, but I do think it's overall, it can be fun. But I think it's mainly made for like a streaming service. Whereas like with Ready or Not, the first one, I'm like, oh, I hope people see this movie. This movie is a lot of fun. Whereas this movie, I'm kind of thinking, I think people are going to watch this movie when it hits a streaming service because it kind of feels like a streaming movie. But let's talk into the things I don't like. Now, even though there are some actors in this movie who do a pretty good job, there are some actors in this movie who are just kind of wasted. Like Kevin Durand, as I mentioned, he has a very brief role in the movie, and that's very disappointing. I felt his character should have had a lot more, considering it's like he's kind of shown very early on. It's like, okay, this is what this is what he's going to do in the movie and such. And he has one more scene later, and that's about it. Well, that's underwhelming. Also, as I mentioned, David Cronenberg is in this movie and such. And his character is not really in the movie a whole lot, unfortunately. Felt like it was just kind of one of those situations where it's like, you know how they do this in horror movies where they take a big iconic name and put them at a point in the beginning of the movie and such, and they kind of deal with them afterwards, and it's just like, well, that's kind of disappointing. You have David Cronenberg in a movie, and this is what you do with him. It's just kind of, I felt like it didn't work out as well. Like, obviously, think of someone like Drew Barrymore in Scream, or Janet Leigh in Psycho, and I felt like with David Cronenberg in this movie, it didn't really amount to much. Also, there's some character development issues in this movie. Like, Sarah Michelle Gellar in this movie, as I mentioned, she does a pretty good job in this movie. But there are some things towards the end of the movie which I'm like, I don't know if I buy that. At least with the first one, I at least bought into Adam Brody kind of being on the fence about this whole thing and kind of buying his arc in this movie, where Sarah Michelle Gellar, I don't buy her arc in this movie. It just kind of feels forced and kind of reminiscent of the first movie a little bit. Also, a character played by actress Mia J, and maybe mispronouncing that, but when you find out like why she's really in the movie and such and how she's connected to Grace, at first it's like, oh, okay, this could actually be really funny and really interesting. And all they really do with it is just do a couple fights, which again, the fights themselves are fun, but I felt like it added nothing to the overall story. And I think what also made the first Ready or Not movie fun was that it had a lot of really fun twists and turns, and that I feel like with this movie, there's not as many surprises, not as many twists and turns this time. Um, Again, when you see the first movie, when that reveal happens at the very end of the movie, it is absolutely chaotic and absolutely hilarious. It's so dark and gross, but it's actually worth it. This movie does that a lot more. And it felt very disappointing because they keep doing it over and over again. It's just not really as fun. And it just kind of makes me think, wait, does the devil in this movie get off to this sort of thing? It just doesn't make sense. And also, like, one of the things that also made the first Ready or Not work was like you had like the upstairs and downstairs mentality of these characters and such, if you know what I mean. In this movie, I feel like that's kind of secondary. Now, obviously, you have these very rich families, kind of doing really dumb things throughout the entire movie and such. But also, you do have a couple butlers in this movie who I felt like they kind of wanted to lean into that a bit, where it's like, they're kind of treating these butlers like crap, so why not just kind of have them have their moment and such? And they kind of do, but it just doesn't quite work out as well. I feel like this movie could work if this movie was on a streaming service, but this movie, again, obviously with the first movie, I had a lot of fun with that first movie. This movie, I feel like it's just not nearly as fun as I wanted it to be, and I just wish this movie. I don't want to say that I don't want to wish this movie away. It's just more like I kind of wish they knew what to take from the first movie without taking things from the first movie, if that makes sense. And that this movie could have had a lot more fun had it like actually tried to do new things or tried to actually expand on things that they were trying to elaborate on. That may be a weird review, but again, I kind of wanted this movie to be a little bit better. So the acting is pretty good for the most part, particularly from Samara Weaving and Catherine Newton. There are fun kills, there are fun fights, there are funny over the top moments and such. But I felt like everything else kind of dropped the ball, like with some of the families and such. The surprises were lacking. The character development was kind of questionable at times, and I feel like some of the use of actors was just very underwhelming. Also, Elijah Wood in this movie, he's also kind of underwhelming as well. Like I kind of wanted him to have more of a personality in this movie, but he just doesn't. This movie, again, not awful by any means, but I feel like this movie could be a lot better, and I have seen a lot better version of this movie. So I will give Ready or Not 2 Here I Come 2 out of 4 stars. Stream it. So, what is your favorite or least favorite horror movie sequel? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat, and stay safe.